Namaste and good morning, everyone. Let's start our class with the prayers. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bhur Bhavaswaha, Tatsavitra Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Diyo Yo Naha Prachodayat, Asto Ma Sadgamya, Tamso Ma Jyotirgamya, Mrityorma Amritam Gamya. ओम सहनावतु सनो भुनक्तु सवीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ओम शांति शांति शांति. The last section of the last chapter, verse number 6. This Rishi says, when the title I dies, what remains is the godly and the all-pervading spiritual I. So the small I merges into the big I. That's where the ego ends. And that's where the Godhood starts. So this is where we ended our last class. Okay, so that's what it really means when he says that at the time of death, you become fully liberated. So death of the ego, not just death of the physical body. Verse number 7. Gataha kalaha panchadash pratishtaha deva cha sarve pratidevatasu karmani vigyan meya cha atmaha pare avyay sarve eki bhavanti. Gata means gone. Kala means parts. Panchadash 15. Pratishtaha rooted. Devaha all the devas. Cha means and, sarve all, prati devatasu, corresponding devatas. Karmani, deeds, actions, vigyan maya, full of knowledge. Cha means and, atma, pare, supreme, avyay, imperishable. Sarve all, eki bhavanti, becomes all one. So they merge into one. So the 15 kalas or 15 parts enter into their elements, their devatas into their corresponding devatas. Their deeds and their self, full of knowledge, become all one in the highest and imperishable one. So 15 kala, we learned about these kalas. What are these in Prashna Upanishads? Over there, that was a question. Prashna Upanishad was an Upanishad where 5 young students ask 5 different questions to their guru, Pipalad. Pipalad Rishi, he explained when Sukesha asked this question, what are these kalas? He said, Pran, faith, Akash, air, fire, water, earth, senses, mind, food, strength, thought, mantra, karam, worlds, and in the worlds of names also. He said, these are the parts. So Lord first created the pran. Pran means the total pran. And technically this pran is called a sutratma. So subjectively, pran stands for the creator in us. Meaning this is a creative urge in our physical, mental, and intellectual personalities. That is pran. Then next is the faith. Without a certain amount of faith, none of us can conceive of or act in or accomplish anything in this world. Creative urge. 5 gross elements we are familiar with: space, air, fire, water, earth. And the perceivers of these 5 elements are the 5 sense organs. Ear to perceive the quality of Akash, the sound. Skin to perceive the qualities of the air, the touch. The eye for the quality of fire, the form. Tongue or the quality of water, the taste. And the nose to smell the quality of earth. So all our sense organs, they are devatas. All these elemental forces, they are the devatas. When we have 5 different sense organs to perceive the 5 independent qualities, there's always a synchronizing and coordinating factor. And that is mind. So mind is produced out of the subtle aspects of the food taken in. And food is not just only the food, food is taken by the eyes, the ears, the touch. That's also called the food. Food yield strength or vitality in us. And when our mind is well fed, full of vitality, thoughts manifest. And a very controlled and regulated thought flow over a chosen subject matter is called mantra, reflection. Mantra is a formula or a symbol repeated often in order to facilitate the process of reflection. That's a mantra. Any mantra chanted in a certain sequence, accompanied by various rituals, is called a karma. That's why they say, as the karam, so the world. And this world is impossible to know without names and forms. So this is like a 16 ringlets in a chain of bondage and sorrow of this world Piplad gave to these young rishis. And these are called kalas, or the parts. And this explanation of Piplad became very famous in the Hindu spiritual tradition. So that's why this rishi is also mentioning these 16 kalas, and you will see that in other scriptures also, Sola kala. So in this verse, he says that Purush is realized by the yogi in samadhi. That oneness is called samadhi. Because when we are extroverted, we see these kalas, these parts. But in samadhi, these kalas enter into their elements, just like a serpent enters into the rope when the rope is under the light of a torch. That's how the true knowledge of the rope is known. And that will end the delusive serpent. The same thing over here in samadhi. This delusion ends of these parts. We know that we are just one with Brahma. That's what he says. Devatas enter their corresponding devas. So this is the vocabulary of the Upanishads. So the presiding deities of the sense organs, the power to receive the sense impulses which are located in respective sense organs, they just merge into that devata. So these various faculties in the organs in perceiving their respective objects, they roll out of the sense organ into their respective macrocosmic elemental powers. So they don't disappear, they just merge into something bigger. Then another thing he said, this kind of a person, his deeds are full of knowledge. Full of knowledge. So the person who does actions, when we think that we are acting out of our egocentric conception, is different. When we do with a full of knowledge that who I am, the action is different. That's what he's talking about. So the ego, we have found, is but the light of awareness expressed through the conditions of the mind and intellect. So to a realized sage, there's no more any of the effects of the previous karams. The karams become a karam. A karam. They don't have any effect. The realization of the self is gained only when the sense of separative egoism is completely and totally annihilated. Remember that. We are here to end this little ego. So this mantra declares that the deeds with their reactions and the ego center with all its false vanities merge to become one with the Supreme Brahman. That's oneness. Now he's giving us analogy in the next verse. Verse number 8. Yatha nadyaha syandmanaha samudre astam gachanti nam rupe vihai tatha vidwan nam rupat vimuktaha parat param purusha upati divyam. Yatha means as, Nadya means the rivers, Syandmanaha, flowing, Sumudre, in the ocean, Samudra, Astam, disappearance, Gachanti, get, Nam Rupe, name and form, Vihai, losing, Tatha means also, Vidwan, the wise person, Nam Rupat, from name and form, Vimuktaha, being free. Parat Param, the highest of the high, Purushaha, supreme divine, Upati, attains, Divyam, eternal. As flowing rivers get themselves disappeared in the ocean, losing their special names and distinct forms. So the wise person, free from all his identifications with the names and forms, goes into the highest of the high, the supreme divinity. We all know the waters of the oceans. They have many names. The clouds also got formed with the water of the ocean in the sky, but they fall down, shower again, and the name becomes rain. When the rainwater gets collected together, flow down continuously into a stream, different kinds of rivers. Even among the rivers, according to the land through which they flow, the condition of their water, their mineral contents, they all have separate personalities, different names. That's why we consider the water in the Ganga not same as the water in Mississippi River. Yamuna is not like Godavari. But once they reach the ocean, they merge into the ocean. They become one with the ocean. They lose all their separate forms, distinct qualities and distinct names. No matter how big the river is, how different the river was, they become one with the homogeneous, vast expanse of the ocean. As long as a seeker has a concept of separativeness, and that separativeness is because of the false identifications with these matter wrappings, that means oneness is not there. And this ego is painful, mortal, suffering, limitations of the material world, full of me and mine. Where ego has ended, a person experiences pure godhood, the highest of the high, the supreme divinity. That's what he's mentioning over here. Tatha vidwan nam rupat vimuktaha parat param purusham upati divyam. So that is the reason we talk about doing that mindful breathing or entering into the meditation and merging with him in samadhi. Want to let go of our small ego. Verse number 9. Sa yah vaitat paramam brahm ved brahmev bhavati na asye abrahmavit kule bhavati tarti shokam tarti papmanam guha granthi bhya vimuktaha amrita bhavati. Sa means he, ya means who, ha va, verily. Tat means that, paramam supreme, Brahm, Ved. Ved means realizes. Brahm eva, as Brahma. Bhavati becomes na asya, not his, a Brahmavit, who does not know Brahm. Kule, in his line, Bhavati becomes. Tarti, crosses. Shokam, grief. Again, Tarti means crosses. Papmanam, sins. Guha granthi bhya, knots of the heart. And we have been talking about this, knots of the heart. Vimuktaha, being free. Amrita, immortal. Bhavati, becomes. He who knows that highest Brahma becomes Brahma. Immortal. So this is the effect of a yogi. Yogi not only takes care of his ego, but helps the future generations also to get rid of this ego. And remember, this knowing is to be understood as subjectively experiencing. Okay? Theoretically, we all know. But we need to do the sadhana to annihilate our entire false ego sense. So that's why this Upanishad is declaring a knower of the Brahm becomes Brahm. The moment of full awareness as the spirit in us becomes aware of itself, gains a knowledge of its own pervading nature. And in the very family of such perfected masters, there shall be born no one ignorant of this truth. Goes beyond sorrow and sin. We get tired of the sorrows in the finite world. Every time we come over here in a human body, we go through the sorrows. That's why the rishis, they said, goal of life is freedom from this sorrow, which is called moksha. That is a state where pain has no entry. Joy is the only experience. And the sin is it's almost like a obstacle on this path of liberation. A man of perfection is he who has ended his ego and has come to discover his Atma, the selfhood. So it is that a realized saint is said to be beyond all reactions of karma. The state of freedom from the past encumbrances, rising from sins, the obstacles, past, whatever accrued merits also, punya also. So no bondage from the good or the bad. That's why he said he goes beyond sin, any obstacle. Because even the good karmas, if they are done with the arrogance, they become obstacles too. Good karmas too. In the world, it looks like good karmas, but they become a bondage too. They are chains. But when a person has realized his spirit, the spiritual hood, that person can know what is correct. He becomes a witness of the very process of the decay of the body, which in common terms we call death. But in spirituality, it's amritvam, immortality. Immortality is never the status of the body. Immortality is the status of the Atma. And this yogi knows that I am Atma. So the state of immortality is a state which can be reached and experienced vividly. He says when the knots of the heart are bombed out of the existence, we got to learn how to take them out. Knots of the heart. Okay? And what are those knots? There are three of them. Avidya, Kam, and Karam. Knots of the heart. Tat etat richa abhyuktam kriyavantah shrotriya brahmanishtaha swayam juvate ekrisham shradyanta tesham ev etam brahm vidyam vadet shirovratam vidhivat yetu chirnam. That means that etat, this richa, these are the Vedic hymns are called richas. Abhyuktam, explained. Kriyavantaha, who perform rituals. Shrotriya, who read or heard the Vedas. Shrotriya. Brahmanishtaha, who pursue the meditation upon Brahma. Brahmanishta. Swayam, by oneself. Juhvate. Juhvate means offers the oblations to fire. Ekarishim, fire. Shradhayantaha, with faith. Tesham, to them. Ev means alone. Etam, this. Brahm vidyam. Vaded, should tell. Shirovratam, a vow. Vidhivad, according to the rules. Ye means by whom, tu means but, chirnam, observed. This very doctrine has been explained in the richas, the Vedic mantras, as follows. To them alone, let one teach this knowledge of Brahma, who perform rituals, who read and study the Vedas, who pursue the meditations upon Brahma, who have faith and offer themselves oblations to the fire called ekarshihi, and who have observed strictly the Shiro Pratam. See, just like in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna tells us that, yeah, after learning it, living it, the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, spread it. The same thing this Rishi is telling these students too. So he says, these are the qualifications, necessary qualifications for a person who wants to study the Upanishads. Who perform the rituals. So rituals are important. Rituals have a place in the spiritual sadhana. They make us concentrate. They bring our attention away from the material world. The rituals. Especially when the rituals, when they are performed with the devotion, without desiring any fruits, have a unique capacity to integrate the personality of a seeker. If we are doing rituals to attain something in the world, they are not that powerful to integrate our personality. Remember that. So, first thing he says, if you're telling somebody, yeah, they should have some kind of a rituals in their life. Well versed in the Upanishadic literature. A seeker should develop in his life some self-control, because in order to study the scriptures, we need self-control, concentration, purity, and more capacity of the mind and intellect. Because if the mind is just wavering, cannot understand this deep philosophy. So he says a person should have that also. So this Karam Kand also, Gyan Kand also. And then he says meditation on Brahma. Who pursue the meditation on Brahma. The term he used over here is Brahmanishtaha. A seeker should spend all his leisure time in reflecting upon the great truth, which is discussed in the Upanishads. Brahmanishta. Then the next qualification he says, faith. Who possesses faith? The power of faith and the necessity of faith for any great achievement, we have already discussed earlier. So faith is needed. Who offers oblations himself? Swayam. Over here, the emphasis is entirely on the word Swayam, himself. Because he alone is a fit student. Because we cannot just pay somebody else to do all this for us. We got to worship the deity ourselves. The whole sadhana is done by ourselves. We cannot buy it. The next quality he says is Shiro Vrat. If you look at it, the meaning, literal meaning, that means a carrying of a bowl of fire on the head. But what does it really mean? Carrying a bowl of fire on the head? That means we got to have a true and discriminative understanding. Must have a burning desire. That is the fire. Burning desire to intellectually grasp the meaning of life. Burning desire. Brahma Vidya is the science of all the sciences. We have spent years and years in learning the other sciences. Now we got to have the burning desire to understand this Brahma Vidya also. That's what it means. Carry a pot of fire on your head. Only an intellect that is on fire, demanding to know immediately a way out or an escape from the realized limitations of life, can hope to understand. Lukewarm desire will not get us there. Burning desire. Anybody who has these qualities, these are 6 great qualifications. This Upanishad is an ideal textbook to indicate to him the goal of life. So when we are trying to understand, we got to see, do we have these qualifications? But when the time comes to impart this knowledge to others, we got to see, do they have this knowledge or not? Knowledge of these qualifications to be a proper sadhak. The last verse, verse number 11. Tat etat satyam rishi angiraha pura uvach na etat achirn vrata adhite nama param rishibhya nama param rishibhya. Tat means that, etat means this, satyam means truth. Rishi angiraha, that is a rishi angiras. Puraha, long ago, uvach said. Na etat, not this, achirn vrataha, who has not observed any renunciation, adhite, study, nama, salutations, param, to the great sages, salutations to param, to the great sages. So nama param rishibhya. So when they repeat at the end, that means this is the end of the scripture. Okay, so that is the truth. Rishi Angiras communicated this to his disciples in the ancient times, long ago. No one who has not observed any vow, renunciation, is fit to study this. So again, he is mentioning one more qualification, renunciation. Our salutations to the great sages, our prostration to the seers. Nama param rishibhya, nama param rishibhya. So 2 terms, tat and etat, that and this, it's very often particular uses in the Upanishad. So that means something far away. This is here. So a disciple reaches a master after living a life of perfect vitality. And there's an intense hunger, the appetite, which is like a full awareness and insatiable thirst. In spite of his brilliant and full living of the circumstances in life. But he knew that whatever he lived, that is impermanent. He cannot have a permanent joy from an impermanent world. And he is looking for a permanency and peace. That's why he came to this rishi. He was seeking for a goal of life. And this student reached the steps of his master's ashram, looking for that. Naturally, his question can only be, is there not, O Guru, a possibility of an existence which is eternal and infinite, which is divine and blissful, which is perfect and satisfying? Because he saw everything, he says, nothing comes close. Can you show me that? Can you teach me that? Can you take me to that? That permanence. So to this query, the master's answer turned out to be Tat Tvam Asi. that thou art. That which you are seeking is really your own eternal nature. And this is what he's saying over here. Tat etat. What you want, it is this. Your own eternal nature. You have only to realize it by awakening yourself into that plane of God consciousness. So this pronoun that, here in the Upanishad have the statement towards the end that is this. Meaning the goal that was pointed out as an utopia, it is so near to us. So that's why this pronoun this, he's pointing out that is this. That this is the truth is only a direct statement by the Rishi to indicate to the student that he has explained it all. That has to be explained. And that there is nothing more for the master to explain on this topic to the student. So Rishi Angiras is the guru who gave this discourse in the ancient times. The Upanishad is advised by the teacher to the disciple with the warning that the disciple should not make this knowledge cheap. Do not give it out to anybody who has not the necessary mental qualities and intellectual qualifications. That's what he meant by renunciation. Achirna vrata adhite. Na etat achirna vrata adhite. No one who has not observed any vow. Vow means a vrat. Vrat means a practice of some self-denial, which is necessary. That's why it's called a spirit of renunciation in the individual who has undertaken the vow. Without a mental attitude for ready self-sacrifice, self-denial of the fleeting charms of the sense life, a seeker cannot have the necessary amount of mental poise or even intellectual sharpness to understand all this. That's why we see that majority of the people, they don't have any interest in studying the Upanishads. You got to cultivate this qualification. Single-pointed concentration upon the deep significances of the scriptural declarations. So that's why this great Rishi, towards the end also, very clearly telling us that this is very important requirement if you want to understand this, if you want to walk on the path of the Rishis. The great necessity of maintaining a continued and consistent sense of renunciation. Renunciation is not just once, not just for a week or a month. Continued renunciation. The persistency has to be there. Because with the renunciation, what are we trying to do? We are trying to understand the truth from the false, permanent from the temporary. Only then we will try to understand what the ultimate permanent is, the self. And the end says our salutations unto the immortal rishis, our adoration to those rishis who have given us this great knowledge. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaye Purnameva Visheshyate. Om Shanti 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 Om. Thank you very much.